Very good morning to all participants and respected today's speaker Shridhar Kulkarni sir. On the behalf of Government College of Pharmacy, welcome sir for today's session. The objective behind this today's session is that sir, uh, the IIC Institute Innovation Council, which is working under the Ministry of Education and under the guidance of the AICTE, want to develop some type of the ecosystem for the entrepreneurship and other opportunities, startup like opportunities. And for that, from last 2 years, our college is taking the small baby steps, and we are exploring through the various intellectual property rights related or innovation related, business related, funding related guidance to the students. And today's session major objective is based on the IIC's guideline is that students have many ideas, but they don't have the idea how to get the funding, how to get the finance for their ideas, or what are the opportunities they should go through their means convert their idea through the pre-incubation or incubation or other type of the ecosystems that are developed either private or government initiatives. Means many universities have developed, and it is a really unfortunate scenario, sir, might be you are also aware, as you are very experienced in this particular subject. Many universities have the incubation centers, but their guidance or their reach towards the student is very minimum, and due to that also we are not getting that much idea about the funding or finance or exactly what is pre-incubation or incubation, or how idea is getting conceptualized to the product, final product, and getting it into the market. So these are the some objectives behind this lecture, sir. And I am very much sure that you are going to give the justice, and all the participants are very lucky that today they are going to hear your views in this particular topic. So I would like to request you to start your session. So dice is yours, sir.
Okay. Thank you, madam, for giving this brief and also for inviting us to talk on this forum. It is we feel that we are blessed to have audience as big as this uh, to hear out the views. Uh, and also thanks for giving the background of and the intent of having this conversation. Just because I'm a lawyer, I need to put certain um, disclaimers before we start conversation. If during the conversation, if I use any examples or if I take names of any big companies, it's only with an intent to give some perspective to it, and not to disclose any confidential information or to criticize any company or any management or that in that stuff. It's just that just to make things clear, because during the conversation I might be using certain real life situations as well. So it's by that. So on that, I mean, just to start the conversation, I know the the Institute Innovation Council of the Government College of Pharmacy um, has been formed under is sponsored by the Ministry of Education and also AICTE, which is the All India Council for Technical Education. So I'm just picking a few snippets from the policy which was devised by AICTE way back in 2016 under the able guidance of the then President Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, the current Prime Minister Mr. Modi, and also Mr. Zavadekar, who was the Minister of HR and Development. So the findings at that point of time, that is way back in 2016, when the startup policy was devised by the ministry. Uh, some interesting facts that we should know is that only 13% startup founders are inexperienced, which means the balance 77%, 87% are all those who are experienced, who have a good capital base, who have a good experience base, and or probably who have the wherewithal to penetrate the market to get to the level where they would want to. So the one of the ideas, one of the reasons or the objectives of forming this kind of a startup ecosystem was to nurture and to bring more and more inexperienced people who might be anxious, who might be apprehensive to get into a business mode, which we will delve more detail later on, was to give them this seeding at a very young age, so make them confident, and give them the necessary ecosystem and environment so that they also start thinking that they can do it. The second aspect was that the average age of the entrepreneurs was 32, and all the people in the in colleges and all are at least about 10 years younger. So, which means that the young crowd, which actually is a great potential to start something on their own, was seen to be or found to be slogging for 10 years in the market, doing some job somewhere, and then trying to get into an entrepreneurship mode. There could be two or three reasons for this. One is that people do not have the adequate capital base, so that they will earn that in the next 7 to 8 to 10 years and create a capital base. Second is because they would not have the wherewithal to get into the market and try to sell their product or their ideas or whatever they would want to sell. So that was another reason why the startup policy was promulgated by the government, is to catch people young. Um, the other aspect that was very um, conspicuous was that the majority of the startup founders had an MNC background, which means that they had already seen the world, they knew what was happening around the world, and based on that, they were trying to monetize. So this is also so looking at from a perspective of what is trying to be achieved through the startup ecosystem is that the people who are young, who have never seen the world, will at least get a glimpse of what is happening around the world on various aspects. And this, how it is achieved, we will discuss that later on. And the last point that on this aspect was why AICT thought of starting this. The ministry started thought of starting this is because most of the student startups have evolved from the technology courses rather than the liberal or the social background. So, which means that all those who had an exposure to technology, who had uh, some vision about how technology would work, were the only startups who got up, and those who were typically working in a different societal background or a liberal background, probably they did not get enough exposure so that they could even think of starting a startup of their own. So this is the brief background as to why even your where you are registered today under the Institute of the Innovation Council. This is the background on the basis of which actually the whole uh, idea started. uh, when so this is what is the ministry is thinking, but let's look at what the business class is thinking from a perspective of how things are changing right now. So world is changing from starting something under the science, technology, engineering, mathematics, to more towards communication, to critical thinking, to creativity and collaboration. So what does this mean is, um, would you ever come to know if something was not spoken too much about Uber? Would you, if someone would have told you, can you do Airbnb? Would you be able to even have any idea what Airbnb would be? If this was being told to me about, say, maybe 6 or 8 years back, probably I would not have known what Airbnb is. Um, this is the concept of, and then the other aspect is, so how did we come to know is because of a lot of branding exercise, a lot of communication, social media. Social media is like a given thing today, but imagine 10 years back if someone would have said, um, you would be able to market your product on Instagram. Someone would have just laughed at it and said that this is not the way of doing it. You have to go and talk to your customer, your prospect, show him what it is, and then move on. Now technology is moving to a certain extent, but this is all because of improved means of communication. Other thing is about critical thinking and creativity. Who would have imagined that not owning a single car, but there would be a value company called Uber and Ola, right? Not owning a single hotel, but there would be a brand called Airbnb. So this is creative thinking. And then lastly, the collaboration. So the collaboration happens just because you are connected. In today's world, it becomes we don't have to think too much how to get collaborated. But imagine these things about 10 or 20 years back, when technology was not at its fore. Of course, to help all these things, to communicate better, to collaborate better, you need technology, you need science, you need engineering. But the thrust is moving, just keeping a scientist or a technologist in experimental mode is not working out. And therefore the centers of origination of all this science, this technology, this engineering, this mathematics, which is these universities, who are sitting on tons and tons of ideas, tons and tons of, I would say, IP rights, patents. Uh, are they able to monetize these ideas? So that was the reason why this startup ecosystem, which is nothing but an on the campus, of the campus kind of a module, where you would be able to not only learn what you are wanting to, what you are interested in, what you are expert in, but also to learn how do you apply that in the market. So this was like nurturing helps develop the qualities. And the last thing is, I have seen personally, wherever you find an IIT person, he is connected with his alumni, uh, thick and thin. If he brings out with a new idea, the first thing that he will do is he will circulate that within his alumni, and then it's all done, because he doesn't have to prove the concept. It is something that gets accepted immediately, and rest is an easy cakewalk, from a perspective, of course. So the alumni support, who are working in a live environment, will then help you to go to the next step. So I have kind of divided this conversation between two aspects. One is because I had read somewhere that this should help even the institute also to get some ideas of how and what should be done to make this happen as a successful win-win situation. So I thought that there could be certain pointers that even at the institute level these need to be seen. And these are again devised out of the AICT guidelines, but I'm just going to talk on a different node altogether. So first aspect is devise the curriculum, and I'm not talking about the curriculum about or the course contents of what you are going to do as a subject matter expert. I am talking about the startup ecosystem aspect, where you need to devise a curriculum which should be able to nurture not only the subject matter expertise that you want to be into, but also about the knowledge, how to gain the knowledge, how to use the knowledge, and how to monetize the knowledge. Develop skills, and these skills would be with respect to not only about what you are into, but also about the soft skills. And develop an attitude. The attitude is typically those, and I'm not commenting on the crowd who is on this call at this point in time, but most of the times people have a very a moderate economic background when they come to the colleges. And then therefore the natural attitude is that let's do a job somewhere, get some capital, gather some money, and then let's see if we can do something on our own. This attitude has to change. and therefore you need, so the institutes would be acting as a catalyst in changing this attitude. There is a completely a different context. I am a very a good example of what entrepreneurship could be. I am from uh, a moderate middle class family, where my all my earlier generations have never done any kind of business, and naturally the thrust was that you should also get into a cozy job. And I just refuted that, and I said, no, I want to do something on my own. At that point in time, there was no one for me to introduce to entrepreneurship. It is all self learning. But now you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity, you have the environment, you have the infrastructure, where these institutes who are doing all, they're taking all the efforts to get to a different level. Then the effort should be to introducing you to entrepreneurship. It means a complete change in the mindset, first of all that. And then there are processes, there are certain do's and don'ts that need to happen when you are wanting to get into an entrepreneurship. So that is one thing that the institutes should aim to do. The other aspect is about business management. While the colleges would have extensive courses on probably doing something about how to develop a new medicine, how to develop a new technology, how to get into what is the end product of all this. So these are all subject matter aspects. But who will explain how do you manage the business? There is a lot of difference between what you do at the lab level versus what you do at a commercial level. So it's an entire journey from ideation to selling that into the market. And this is an aspect of business management which we see, we have observed that there is a bit of lack on that aspect, and therefore there has to be a thrust on the business management aspect. Then of course you have to decide the stream of technology that you want to support. This is more from the institute point of view. Maybe I don't have a complete background of the college of pharmacy, but if suppose tomorrow, are you equipped to handle situations where there could be something in physics or metaphysics, if or maybe something in biotechnology, because today biotechnology is at the top. So we have to decide as to which stream we want to support. In Pune, we have a few who support anything and everything with relating to medical sciences. And it's like amazing technologies that we have seen, that these where I don't know where you get these ideas from, where you get this intellect from. It might be a God gift, but it's amazing. While they talk, it seems so easy, but it's not that easy. So from that perspective, what is the stream of technology that you want to support? Is it a new technology that you want, which you need, which needs an adoption in the market, in the society? So this is more from an institute point of view, where you need to think as to what is the support that you want to give. If you are trying to do something new, and probably something which you have never delved into, maybe you should take some more time to get all the infrastructure set, and try to concentrate on the specializations that you would have. And then lastly, it is about the industry tie-ups for various internships. So like what in the legal field, I am a lawyer, so I can talk only about that. We have tied up with all the colleges, and with their placement cells, and we will kind of accommodate them in our daily routine. This is an attempt to give them an exposure as to how the world looks at what they are studying. So industry trials for internships is best. Then one is devising this curriculum, and then the second thing is about imparting the curriculum, which means that how would you want to implement. So as I made a comment earlier, it is on the campus, off the campus, and then arrange entrepreneur interactions both. So the other day I was with someone, and he wanted to look at how does the co-working. I'm sure you all are aware that there is a concept of co-working and managed services, in the sense that offices now don't have their own offices, but they go and sit into someone else's office, which is meant to be rented for the purpose of using for your business purposes. So I don't lease or rent. I don't take anything on bhada. I just go and sit. I don't have to invest in chair, AC, table, right up to water and coffee. Everything is offered by that co-working management. So one of our clients wanted to look at how these things work out. He's into construction business. He has some properties, so he wanted to convert that into one of these co-working spaces. So I made it a point that I show him not only the success or the succeeding or the successful ventures in Pune, but I also showed him ventures which have failed, or the manner in which this does not need not be done or should not be done. I did not show him only the good ones, but I also showed him the bad ones. So from that perspective, um, if you are calling any entrepreneurs to speak at your forum, you should call both successful as well as failed, because the failed person will actually tell you exactly what you should not do. A successful guy will tell you what should be done, but a failure or a failed guy will tell you how not to study in a different manner, in a wrong manner. And so that is the crux of that aspect. You should also bring investors of various categories, and there are various categories of investors, as you know: angel investors, seed investors. Friends and family is not something which will be relevant to you, because this will be more of, and which I'll just touch base upon a later point of time. And then there are VCs, and then there are strategic. So strategic is something that I'll speak when I talk about the agreement part of it or the legal part of it. So there are strategic investors as well. And then, of course, conduct workshops of different subject matter experts already implementing the business model. So maybe someone in your current members is working on some chemical formulation which could talk about maybe some cleansing activity, because recently we have come out of pandemic and it had become a lot of got a lot of importance. So a different way of how to clean with as many less chemicals as possible. I'm sure there are companies in the market who are already doing this. Why don't you call them and help them and request them to do a workshop along with them? And the last point that would be that I would be talking is about training on pitching for the business ideas. So uh, so training on pitching for business idea is I'm not sure if you are aware that we know Bennett and Coleman, right? This is Times of India group, as we normally or generally know. uh, they hold um, events, and I have been to some of these events where they call upon business ideas, and they also call upon various investors at that event. And the investors are like what is happening right now on Shark Tank, right? So uh, this is being done differently. And Times of India group does this as a sponsor. There is nothing about Times of India here, but it is just an attempt to bring ideas, make them pitch before a set of investors who are sitting there, and then based on their pitch, uh, the top two are selected for the next round of funding. And so, how do you pitch your business idea? And when I was at that event, I could clearly see, or I could clearly make out that these two pitches are not going to be of any interest to the investors, because the way they were pitching was apparently seen to be as unprepared. So you need to do your homework. So who can help you? The institute can help you. So this is one aspect of having training for pitching for business ideas. And then there are so you have devised the curriculum, you are implemented it. Now how do you follow up on what has been devised and what has been told to be done? So maybe you can do one some kind of academic evaluation and assessment, which could be in the form of recognitions which will be given as awards or certificates or accreditation, if possible, because you are government supported and sponsored. And I know there are a few programs and schemes which are devised by the government, wherein you can give accreditation to the government schemes and policies. And then the evaluation should be on the basis of various aspects. I had an opportunity of um, judging on the legal aspect, almost about 25 new project ideas or business ideas for one of the incubation centers in Pune. And it is amazing to see how people think. The evaluation should be on the basis of various factors such as ideation, prototyping possibility, customer acceptance, acquiring the customers, the time period required to acquire these customers, how is the technology scaling? Are we talking about something which is already a stale technology, which is redundant, or we are trying to improvise that, or is it going to be something absolutely new? So these could be the evaluation factors. The evaluation need not be done by the institute themselves, but they can call um, external experts, domain specific experts, someone who has done a lot of things in this aspect, business success people who have succeeded in business management, so that they will give the business perspective of it while evaluating, and so on and so forth. And the last aspect is providing of funding and infrastructure support. And I'm sure the institute would be already doing this. One of these, so today's conversation is also one of those efforts, that is setting up an incubation facility, setting up tinkering labs, evaluating funding support through networking with the investor funds. So this is in nutshell how I look at it as a problem statement: is devise, design, impart, implement, follow up, and give a support. So this will definitely help a structured process and a structured program for the institutes, which I'm sure you are already doing it. But I thought of bringing this to the fore. Now comes the aspect. I think this would be more interesting because almost 75 people are on the call, or rather 80 people on the call, who would be wanting to hear more about what they should do. Um, so um, uh, when ideas come to the mind, uh, most often than not, but is every idea possible to be converted into a business statement, is something that is always going to be a challenge for all of you. If I'm able to make a correct statement, because I'm not into I am a lawyer. Again, I don't have to think innovatively so far as it is concerned, because law is already in front of me, which is done by someone else. Of course, I have business dynamics where I have to apply this law, and there is where the creativity comes, but not the innovation or the innovative mind that is required. I can only be creative in what I can do, but you people are amazing. So while you're thinking about doing something new, trying to bring some new problem solution to the problem in the market, you have to first ascertain what the problem statement is. Most of the times, you come with a solution. Most of the times, you come with a product, that I have done this, but have we ascertained what the problem statement is? And of course, I don't want to demean by saying this, but most of the times when these young business entrepreneurs who come to us for solutions, most of the times they don't know what they want to achieve, and they just come and say that I have done this. This is like, and see, everybody loves their own baby, right? So there is nothing wrong about it. It's not that we are talking here what is wrong, what is right. It's just about looking at it from a perspective, so that what you think is beloved for you, you should be able to take it to the next level, make him big, make him respectable, make that baby known in the market and accepted. So, from that perspective, you need to have your dream, your vision aligned with your dream, so that it understands what is required to be done effectively in the market. So, from that perspective, find a problem statement to make it effective selling. Product may not be always be able to be sold. Uber sold because It said that you don't need to own a car. You will be picked from your doorstep and you will be dropped at your another doorstep. And what is the problem statement? You don't need to buy a car. And that is where the idea clicked. And there are so many examples of the Zomatos and the Swiggies. And what we see today is that even a small notebook can be delivered within the city in 15 minutes without even moving from your chair. So I'm referring to the delivery partners such as Dunzos and Swiggies and all. So you have to find a problem statement. What is the problem? That I cannot move from my office just to get a small notebook which I have forgotten at my home. I have no one at my home because my wife is working, my kids have gone to the school, my old parents cannot move out of their home. In my office, my team is busy. I don't have an office boy, but I need that notebook in next 1 hour. What do I do? So this problem statement helps, and therefore there is an idea, and therefore there is a solution brought, and therefore it is successful. So you need to find out the problem statement for whatever you are working upon. Second is find the prospective customers and their needs. Will this sell? Is the question that you have to keep on asking. While doing that, you have to also be mindful about whether there is already someone who is doing this. Is there a competition? If there is a competition, the first thing that you need to do is study. So I'm sure you all must be following cricket, right? So we always said that, and that's what my personal view is, that Indian team at some point in time uh, lacked a psychological mentor to them, because while they were all technically perfectly fit and perfect on that aspect, they had good physicians, they had good trainers, physical trainers, but was there someone who was curing their mind? This was always a question to me, because anything and everything is something which is a something in the mind. So um, so what would this person would have done essentially is, before the match started, first of all ascertain, you all would have played Dream 11 some point in time. You would have ascertained who is the best out of the team and select them, right? So similarly, I would have first studied the weaknesses of my opponent. I would have studied the strengths of my opponent and accordingly changed my strategy rather than harping on my skills. Every time your skills would not help you. It is also um, whether and how strong or how weak your opponent is also helps a lot. So, from this perspective, you need to look at whether you have already a competition, how strong that competition is, what is the technology that he is working on, and so on and so forth. Look out for help from for help on any and every aspect. Talk to your family, talk to your friends. Of course, your institute will help you, but keep on asking for help on various aspects on these matters. Create a business plan. So this is something that um, I always feel that there is a bit of a weakness with people who think about, or who are innovating, or who are wanting to get into an entrepreneurial mode. All the time we hear that whoever we have met until now who are wanting to do big, they say, I am a pure techie guy, I don't understand all these things. Boss, you cannot say that, because you need to understand. If a balance sheet comes before you for signing, will you say, I don't understand this, but I will still sign it? How will you own what you have signed? So you need to know the commercial aspects. You need to know the expense related aspects. You need to know profitability. You need to know revenue, and it is not rocket science. So you need to have a business plan. The business plan should talk about the revenue, it should talk about what are the expenses, it should talk about what is the profitability that you are wanting to work on, and it is not something which is momentary. You have to look at it from the next at least 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years point of view. And there is where you will need certain expert help. But an expert can only help you along with holding your hand. If you move your hand or if you jerk off your hand, he is clueless. He does not understand your business completely. You need to tell him what your business is. And for that to happen, you should have a very clear understanding of how how your idea is going to work in numbers. Okay, so the number game is very important. The other aspect is create prototype. I mean, you need to create your prototypes pretty fast at the lab level because someone else might be already working on this. And I'll come to this when we'll talk about the legal aspects in better detail. But someone might already be working on it, trying to create a prototype, and see it to believe it is the mantra. That if you just talk about that, I am thinking of doing this, that everybody will be happy, but someone will tell me, give me something to look at, and the person who brings the prototype first will be the person who will be hurt seriously. So creating prototypes is of utmost importance. um, Probably this conversation might be too naive for you all that अरे ये तो क्या हम सबको सब मालूम है ये क्या बता रहा है. But I'll come to the technical part of the legal aspects which I am proficient in. But I wanted to set the background before I get to that. The next aspect is legal validity, such as the intellectual property, documentation involved, which type of entity to form, whether licenses or any approvals are required before you want to get this into at a stage. We have worked with a lot of vaccine related entities. So we understand that domain as well, where you need to have some kind of level of approvals from certain of the approving authorities even before you can take it for the next level of testing. Leave aside further manufacturing. So, and this is not about the vaccines that we have been hearing for the last 2 years. It is about something which is relating to animal husbandry and related stuff. So there also, and more specific reference to poultry, where they were trying to get to a vaccine which will enrich the quality of the meat once the vaccine is injected into the poultry. So there are a lot of tests even before you can do testing on animals. Though it is animals, you need to have certain approvals and so on and so forth. So you need to be very clear about what those licenses approvals are. Otherwise, it might end up that you cannot even test what you have innovated. Uh, Also understand the risks. Now we are talking about risks at the business level, but also at the personal level, which means that um, to what extent are you exposing yourself of the in the profession which you are. If you are going to do something which is going to kind of either it is going to create any disaster, how are you understanding the risks involved in this aspect? And the second aspect is about the softer one, which is about what is the background that you are coming from. Will immediate business scenario support you? What are the other business aspects? What is the area in which you are going to work, and so on and so forth. So you need to understand your risks better so that you are able to mitigate them. And then the next aspect is understanding risks is fine, but are you able to mitigate them, and how do you want to mitigate them? So that is also something that you might need some expert advice. You might be able to find your own solutions, but it is important to note down all these risks even before you get into it. Then building the team, because you alone cannot run this all on your own. You have to build your team. You have to find a leadership team, you have to find your executive team, you have to found you find founders, because at times you are working on one technology but you would need some um, complement from another technology which is done by another person and who is equally competent. Whether you two can come together and do it, even in within the same technology, you need an hand, and at a founders level, at a thinkers level. So thinkers level, building team, leadership building team, and execution team is all something that you need to start working upon. um, you cannot just simply think that I am the innovator, I will innovate this, and then I want someone else to do the business. That doesn't happen in most of the cases, because then it doesn't mean um, whether it doesn't mean whether you are owning the business or you are wanting someone else to own the business. So you need to be very clear on that aspect. So building team is very important. And then lastly, market the product. So what is the go to market strategy? GTM is what they call alignment of the medium of marketing with the kind of product developed. Is simply talking on Instagrams and LinkedIn's is going to help, or is it that you want to go to the market, sit with those people, tell them what you are doing, and then convince the product and about the product and the market. So marketing of the product is of very uh, great importance, because if you are not able to sell the product, then the whole efforts go waste. Coming to the various legal matters, so this is where I would like to talk a bit on various aspects. So the first one is about the nature of entity. Now this has So in India, there are primarily a proprietorship concern. There is a partnership firm aspect. Then there is a incorporated entity aspect. In that, you might have a private limited company. You might have a limited liability partnership. Um, so I'll detail out this a bit more in the sense, in the proprietorship concern and the partnership firms, the liability of the proprietor is unlimited. What does this mean? So suppose you are going to run your business under a partnership firm with your partner, and it is a partnership firm. Uh, Suppose in the business some wrong happens, God forbid, and the business is completely off, and there are a lot of debts. You need to pay your vendors, your suppliers, um, and of course the business is recognized separately from accounting point of view. But if in this situation where you are not able to provide, if your business is not able to support the payments, then as per law, these vendors, these suppliers, whoever is not paid, can reach upon to your private property, which means that they can claim on your private property to say that people please pay from there. Of course, there are legal processes to be followed, but I'm principally telling how does the partnership firm and the proprietorship concerns work from this perspective. Now come to the scenario of private limited and limited liability partnership. Principally, what is the difference between private limited and LLP? Is that a private limited company is, from a tax point of view or from um, a structure point of view, it's a company. More so from a tax point of view, it is assessed differently. But a limited liability partnership is nothing but a partnership with having a limited liability. Now the concept is about limited liability. So imagine, so I gave you a scenario where the partnership firms and the proprietorship concerns would have the vendors and the suppliers having the right to come onto your private property to claim the money. In LLPs and private limited and public limited companies, they cannot come to you to your private property. Whatever is the business, it's a separate entity. It is an artificial person created by law, and you can at the most ask that artificial person to pay. If that artificial person does not pay or is not able to pay, these suppliers vendors would not have a right on your private property or enforce to pay from your private property, so far as, of course, there are again a bit of riders in that, so far as that the directors, the owners of this private limited company LLP have not done something which is criminally wrong. It's just pure business loss that we are talking about. You try to do something with bona fide intent, without goofing up anybody, without doing anything which is criminal wrong, and it was a pure business situation, and then you are not able to pay anybody. So if the private limited company or the LLP has any assets, sell them, and whatever money is realized, uh, settle the suppliers. If they are not able to get themselves paid 100%, bad luck, but not nothing beyond that. There is a process. This is what we call as the liquidation or the insolvency or the insolvency process or the winding up process. So this is a fundamental difference between private limited, LLP, partnership firm, and proprietorship concern. One more disclaimer: this is not an advice. We are discussing something as what is available in the legal framework. So if and by the way, to form a private limited company, to form an LLP, there is not so much of a huge cost that we are looking at. It's minimal. Now all the things are made very simple and straightforward. So if someone is of the impression or gives you an impression that no private limited company वो director बनाना पड़ता है, shareholders करना पड़ता है, LLP में ऐसा वैसा, no worries. Everything is simple and straightforward. There are processes, but processes are there for everything. Um, you should be looking at a situation where your liability is limited at any point in time. Don't expose yourself at this young stage of your entrepreneurship so that you get disheartened, demotivated, and decide to get moving away from this aspect if something unfortunate happens. So from that perspective, you should look at forming something like a private limited setup or a LLP state setup. There are various contours to it when it comes to funding and all. I will come to that when we are talking about the investment aspect of it. But between I would say a limited liability setup and an unlimited liability setup, always go for a limited liability setup. One, it is not really very time consuming, it is not complex, it is not costly. Things have eased out now. Government has made ease of under ease of doing business. They have done a lot of things which will kind of help you to get to this level easily. The other aspect which I deliberated earlier was about whether your ideation, whether your concept, whether your product, whether your innovation needs any local law permits, right? So you have to be very clear about whether you want what are all permits are required, and there are experts who can help. Institute might have some connects with various industry experts, or even within the government setup there would be something as a machinery which will help to understand whether these particular ideations, innovations, products would need any kind of permits or approvals, and the cost associated with it, and what are the processes. So you need to be very clear about that, because there is no option. Law is law, compliance is compliance, and you have to comply with the law. So better be aware of that rather than not being aware and later repenting. The other aspect is what is the projected way of going to the market. Ultimately, whether your product is going to be sold, is capable of being sold, and where it is going to be sold is of utmost importance. If you are doing something maybe on the vaccine or medicine or related stuff, and if you are wanting to sell this in the US market, you should first know whether what are the processes that are required even to go to the US market, and talk to whom, which agency, which authority, what is the process, and whether you being in India, whether you will be able to sell that directly in the US market, or you need to be in the US as a LLP or as a private limited in their shape and form, and then you will be able to sell it, is something that you have to have a clear understanding. And these are the matters that, to a larger extent, law firms in the US or outside India, overseas, wherever, in which country you want to be, will be able to help you, because governments also there, like what in India. Um, so there are these embassies, right? So India has an embassy there, so they have tie-ups with various entities there, and they will help you out as to how and what are the various things that you need to do before you can start a particular business. Similarly, there are chambers of commerce, like there is Indo American Chamber of Commerce, there is Indo German Chamber of Commerce in India, and of course outside in those countries, which are also helpful in you need to be members to start with. There are then there is Maratha Chamber here in Pune. NASCOM is there, so ASOCAM is there. So all these um, chambers and these kind of institutions and associations uh, help you a lot on these business parameters. Not only every time you need to be looking about only about what you call the market aspect of it, but it is also about the processes, the various compliances that you need to be aware of, and so on and so forth. So these associations help a lot. Uh, the important part now is about the agreements. So what are all the various agreements that you need to know? So before that, um, whenever you are starting a business, you need to have certain documentational infrastructure ready within your organization. And what is that documentational infrastructure is something that I'm going to talk now. Not everything will be applicable on day one, but you have to be ready to complete that aspect very soon if that eventuality is seen in the near future. So, breaking it down with respect to your internal employee related matters, then about your external employees. Now, what does external employee means? That's something which your employees may not be able to do. You will subcontract that. You will ask someone else to do that. So, from that perspective, the third thing is customer related. So, what are these documents? It could be anything from a non-disclosure agreement. It could be a license agreement. It could be a partnering agreement. It could be a teaming agreement. It could be a referral agreement. It could be a reseller agreement. It could be a contract manufacturing agreement. I'll delve on these a bit in detail as we move forward, time permitting. But these are the different types of documents that you must be ready with. Then comes, as I said, that while building the team, you need to have founders with you, co-founders with you. You need to have an agreement between those co-founders as well. What happens if, suppose, tomorrow your co-founder's business interest changes? He wants to move away from this business. He's already holding some equity, some stake in this company. What do you want to do with that equity? Do you want him to continue so that you slog and he benefits out of that, depending upon the stage at which he is moving out? Or do you want him to permit to create nuisance at a later point in time because he sees that the fruit is ripening, so let me throw a stone? So all these things, and then good parts as well, is whether you want him to continue as a name lender. Say for example, you have a fantastic guy who has agreed, but he was small at that point in time. He is your founder, and now he has become great because of some other ventures. Do you want him to continue with him because it gives you an added benefit to talk to the market saying that this guy is a co-founder on my project, on my uh, startup, on my innovation, on my invention? So look at the good parts as well, look at the bad parts as well. So these things are helpful with respect to the founders agreement. Then are you, if you are with some accelerator or with some incubator, they definitely have certain mentors. So these mentors would want to have agreements with you. You will not be able to pay them, so they would want some equity. So how do you work on those agreements? So this aspect is also to be seen. Then you have advisories. So you would want, probably, say, maybe the Tata chairman to be on your advisory board, because one is he will give you very good um, business inputs, business insights, and merely his name will fetch, because no Tata chairman would agree to be on your advisory unless and until he is convinced that boss you are doing something fantastic, right? So that conviction itself is good enough for you to tell to the market that, Tata chairman is convinced about my product, about my idea, which means there is something material in it. So I just took a name because that would have related more easily. There are so many industry stalwarts whom you can simply approach if you want to, and if you will, and if you would have an access to them, and request them to be on the advisory board. The next question these people will ask is, how are you going to mitigate my risk being an advisor to you? And there comes the agreement. So, the advisory agreement part is also very important. And then, lastly, about the equity arrangements, whether you want to give stock options to your employees, whether you want, if you have investors, what type of agreements do you want? What is the nature of the instrument that you are going to issue? And so on and so forth. Now, these are matters of too much nitty gritties. If I start talking, even 8 hours or 10 hours will be less. But I want to touch base upon these aspects so that you are ready, and I'll still give you some more um, real life experiences that we have seen with the people like you who are innovating something. You have done something very fantastic, and when you start talking to the market, the big fish wants to eat the small fish, and I have so many examples of that. Not frightening, but there are. I'll explain. I'll illustrate them more better. The last point is about the IP registrations. So I was asked to touch base upon this aspect as well. See, the moment that you think that you are innovating something, first you are creating something which is new in the market. But how long will it remain new depends upon how much projection, how much marketing, how much talking of it happens in the market. And if you want to protect that, so imagine you say, I have done something which is fantastic, and you talk to your neighbor. Neighbor is also of the same caliber as you are, educational background, everything same, and you have done nothing to protect your IP. He will immediately, and he is fast enough. So he is same evening he goes, he does everything. He does a prototype and he brings into the market, and he has already registered it. Now, what does this registration mean? So fundamentally, you need to know that there are a few concepts of intellectual property. Most of them you would know. One is trademark, another one is copyright, third thing is patent, fourth thing is designs, and fifth is, of a larger instance, is geographical indications. Let's not talk about GI because that is something which is of a different context altogether. We are talking here about individual efforts, and therefore let's talk about trademark. Now, trademark is something which is very naive, which is very trivial in the whole scheme of things, because if something does not fit, you can probably change it and make it non-infringing or non, which is not same as what is already existing. Uh, though of course, because you are in the nascent stage of your business promotion, if you think that something is near to resembling to what already existing is, then probably you should not look at it, be too much attached to it, and try to do something different. Say for example, what if you don't do this exercise? Even before that, I would say domain name registrations, because everything sells on online right now, and we are talking about metaverse. So, um domain name registrations are important, and typically what happens is, if you have, and this is our experience, that if you have thought about something which is unique, the first thing that um, you business you technical people and you all, you go and register the domain first, and then you become married to it mentally, psychologically. that this is what, because I have got the domain name, which means it is available. But have you checked whether that domain name has some contradiction with an already existing trademark? It is already existing trade name which someone else might be using. Probably, just for an example, say Tata.com. You think that okay, Tata.com is something which is very alluring to me. I'll go and register the domain. You get Tata.com.com. But will you be able to register the trademark as Tata.com? No, you cannot. This is a big problem. And then you are married to Tata.com. You say, oh, I got this domain, but now I cannot use it. So when you are delving into this aspect, you have to be very sure whether whatever you are trying to name your venture, whether that name is already taken by someone else, and that is where the trademark aspect comes into play. Process is you, and it is easy. It is free of cost, and it is available publicly in the public domain of the trademark registry to see. Of course, there are certain technical issues involved in that, and therefore you might need an help from an expert or a professional, which is typically IP lawyers. But you need to look at whether that particular trademark is already being registered and it is free of cost, available in the public domain. Look at that first and then decide. And it's not going to be a huge one. The result comes in minutes. So it's not that you apply today and it will take 2 months to come, which used to be the case earlier, but now it is not. So it is just online. The second aspect is about designs. Now, what does design mean? Um, um, so, um, when you hold a drinking water bottle, right? दिमाग में क्या आता है? Distillery immediately, right? So that is something that comes to your mind. Um, I don't know how many of you have follow Apple, but do you know the old Apple desktop? It had a unique shape. It had some unique shape. So when someone says that I am working on an Apple desktop, immediately it used to come in the mind as to what. Um, do we know? I'm sure you will all be aware of. Well, this is the disadvantage of talking online because I am not able to take reactions from you. So I'm sure you know the footwear called Crocs. Right? The moment someone says Crocs, the entire picture of that footwear comes in your mind. You don't need to take too many efforts. So that is design. So you need to, or maybe featherlight chairs, or I'll come back if I get some more. So the moment you utter that word, that picture comes in your mind. So that is design. I don't know what field and what level of research the attendants today are doing, but if you are doing something on devices, on physical devices, design registration is of utmost importance for all of you. And the last one is patent, and which is, I think, a no-brainer, no rocket science. It is an innovation that needs to be registered even before it is publicized. The biggest mistake that innovators do with respect to patent registration is the timing. Most of these these innovators come to us and say, you know what, we have done a brochure, and we have circulated it to various industries who might feel interested in this kind of innovation. You know what, we have attended about 5 to 6 trade fairs and exhibitions in Bangalore, in Europe, and in US and in UK, and we have told what we do. And then I say, have you applied for patent? So they say, no, we haven't, but we wanted to do that. I said, you cannot do that now. The biggest and the most important condition with respect to patent registration is that you apply first and then talk about it. The moment you talk about it in public, you lose the right to apply because you have made your innovation known to a few more people who are likely to apply along with you. And that's the example that I was giving about the neighbor. In evening, he will first go, and if he is shrewd enough, he will first go and register, apply for the patent, and then he will do the rest of the things. He will not even talk about it. So patent is something which is very important, and I am sure in your domain in which you are working, this is of utmost importance, and you should be very careful about this. So, this is what I had to speak on the various aspects of the subject matter that I thought would be relevant to the listeners today. Now, coming to the few of the real life instances where um, people like you had come to us and they had a fantastic innovation, they had a fantastic idea. They had run this at the lab level, and now they wanted to go to the market, but they did not have the wherewithal of doing it on their own. What does this mean? Is that you invented something, you tested it at the lab level, and you have found this as perfectly viable to be used in the market now. But naturally, at that level, you don't have the right to, you have don't have the wherewithal of manufacturing it at such a mass level. So how does this work? Then there are either technology partners or there are contract manufacturers uh, who are ready to take the financial load, initial financial load, because they already have some manufacturing capacity with them, which is installed but which is not used, and they are able to adapt that manufacturing facility to the nature of product that you are wanting to produce for mass. So, what happens in these cases is, in the euphoria, in the excitement of having got someone who is ready to look at this, you go and start talking to him everything. You disclose everything to him. But have you entered into or signed a non-disclosure agreement with him? What does that mean? Is that what happens? What if suppose tomorrow he gets all the information from you and he says, no, I cannot do this. And then at the backyard, he's already started preparing to manufacture this product. If you have not signed a non-disclosure agreement with him, which typically would say that whatever I am disclosing is of utmost importance to me, it is bread and butter for me, you will not use this information beyond this agreement and beyond this discussion, and you will not compete with me. These are the simple three or four line items that need to be covered in the non-disclosure agreement. And if a person who is of that stature, who has a manufacturing facility, he understands the importance of this document, and he will typically not resist in signing unless he has wrong intents. The moment the person says that I cannot sign this document, you should stop discussing with him, because that shows the intent. This is the importance of a non disclosure agreement. Now, coming to the aspect about the contract manufacturing or licensing, technology licensing, these are a bit detailed conversations, but I'll just give you a brief glimpse of what it means. Is So I was wanting to give you two good examples of how things work out. So this guy had done something in ultraviolet technology during the pandemic days, and it was a fantastic innovation. It was actually going to address things which people were kind of struggling to find a solution during the pandemic days. And he came to me and told that, you know what, this big company is wanting to take over my technology, and they are promising that they will go to the market, they will manufacture this because they have um, uh, uh, manufacturing facility which they can use it for the purpose of manufacturing this. I said, what are the terms and conditions of? First of all, I asked him, what is the quantity that they are promising to produce and circulate in the market? Because your revenue, your earning is going to be directly related to the number of units that are going to be produced and to be marketed in the market. So, what is the capacity of them, of this manufacturing facility? So he said, no, I have not discussed that yet. And in the process, what has happened is he has disclosed everything to this big manufacturing entity, all the trade secrets, how it should be done, what should be done. And he said, no, no, they are big, they will not do anything wrong with me. And then they will be very fair. I said, we are not doubting anybody's intentions, but what if suppose tomorrow they withdraw? right? So there are aspects of exclusivity. So they were insisting that you will not work with any other contract manufacturer except us, and we will be exclusively manufacturing this. So I asked him that what if tomorrow they are not able to meet the target? You are married to them with no option to return back. And what if your technology is just gets stale in their system because they are very big? Tomorrow they might lose interest in this and they might have interest in something else which is more alluring, which is more revenue seeking, and they will say contractually we are not obligated to tell him anything, and this technology will still remain with us. Where are you in the market? Because they will not market your technology. You have spent your entire life on that, and you are now in a situation where contractually you are not allowed to part with them and use this technology with someone else similar who would be interested in manufacturing. So this is one case where this aspect was not well thought by the entrepreneur. There is another example where this guy comes from, I guess, somewhere from Gujarat, and he was talking to a very big company in Pune who is manufacturing in the medicine field. And we asked him, "Have you signed an NDA?" He said, "Yes, I have signed an NDA." And in that NDA, I asked him, "Give me a copy of that NDA," and we saw that he had very well articulated certain things, and he had very clearly said that this arrangement will last only for 6 months. If within 6 months, if we are not able to finalize on how we are moving ahead, this agreement is terminated, and you will not be able to use the data that I have shared with you for any purposes. And then he came to us for having an agreement drafted for the next step, which is for the purpose of contract manufacturing, or rather manufacturing and selling it in the market at a mass level. And then they started arm twisting this person, saying that we'll not do it this, we'll not do that way, we don't want to give you this commitment, we don't want to give you that commitment. And it was very clear that they wanted to not go in the right spirit. So we told this guy that, this is not working out clean for us from our perspective, so you need to be careful. And then this guy told this manufacturing company that, you know what, this is not moving anywhere. You are taking unreasonable time to come to a decision, and you are putting up unreasonable conditions. So I would want to move out of this discussion. I am reminding you of this NDA that you have signed. Next day, they started talking to him in real serious terms because they came to know that contractually, after 6 months, they will not be able to do anything. They are restricted and prohibited from doing anything. This is the importance of doing the documentation at the right time, in the right perspective, and in the right manner. So I will stop here because I have been speaking. I did not look at if anybody has any messages or any questions.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, so I'll give 10 minutes.
Yes, sir. There are questions. One is first is that is what is incubation center and how they help the startups.
Okay. So there are about 4 to 5 aspects that these incubation centers help on, depending upon what technology you are. I have seen chemical industry startups. I have seen metaphysics startups, incubation centers, and of course software startups. So what they do is they give you they give you an environment. First of all, they will give you space uh, at a very low cost or maybe free of cost. They will work with you if they understand the technology. They might work with you to set up a small lab for you. You don't have, again, it could be at very low cost or maybe at free of cost, depending upon what is their infrastructure they are into. The third thing is um, they have enrolled mentors, they have enrolled advisors on their board of these incubators, where they have tied up with industry experts who can come to you and give you advice on the technology that you are working on, not only, and also there could be other mentors who would be helping you on how to manage the business and how to take the business to the next level. And so incubation is nothing but nurturing an egg with all the environment, um, not only environmental temperature, but also all the nurturing that is required, so that the egg hatches into a nice little chicken, which is ready to move into the market.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
They, they will also help you find investors. They might themselves invest. They will not charge you fees upfront, but they might be interested in some small stake in your company, which will later on compensate them for the efforts that they have taken for you. So it is like a give and take.
Mm. Yes, sir. Sir, one more question is there. How much equity or stake should be shared with the incubation centers? Legally, it is
Um,
advisable.
No, I mean, there is no right number here. It all depends upon the facts and circumstances of the case at that point in time. Certain incubators come with a given position saying that we need 5%, we need 2%, we need 10%. In our experience, though that is not something which is a benchmark, or this is not a gospel truth or something that should be taken in your mind, you need not be biased with that, but something between 1 to 5% is what we have seen as a norm, where the incubators are happy with and would want it in a way.
Yes, sir. Uh, Thank you, sir. Actually, there was one question while registering through the Google form, that what is exactly the startup? I think that you have given answer that it can be the public limited, private limited, it can be LLP, it can be public funded, it can be company or proprietorship. I think it is the right answer for that question.
Yeah, I was just want to caution here is that as per the startup policy of India, they have very clearly defined what a startup is, and you need to abide by that so that you get the rest of the benefits that the startup policy has given. So ensure that you go through it. Is a plain, clear, simple English that you can understand. You need to abide by that aspect. Otherwise, you might be, while as a concept you will be a startup, but from getting benefits from the government policies, you might be disqualified.
Mhm. Yes. One more question is there. How much fees required to form all these type of means especially startup or the
See,
process is
basic.
offline or online?
Yeah, yeah. So the process is online, but you still need some expert help because there are nitty-gritties involved in that. Private limited company and an NLP, partnership fund, proprietorship, you don't need to spend any money, to be honest, for formation. It's just about some, depending upon what capital you are bringing, there is a stamp duty aspect, but I don't want to complicate that. Uh, but for a private limited company and or an LLP, you should budget about 50,000 rupees with all the registrations that would be required, including all the government costs, the professional cost, and it could be lower as well, but max to max 50,000 rupees is on top of the head.
Mhm. Yes, sir. There is one question from faculty that they have the pre-incubation center. Means as per IIC norms, whatever the facilities college has, that need to be considered under the pre-incubation. So they have mentioned that they have the
Yes.
pre-incubation facility. Now they want to establish the incubation facility at the college. So what are the legal requirements? Is it like a company or what exactly?
Again, there are a few aspects on that. I would be comfortable talking this off the line with the faculty at a later point in time.
Mhm. Okay, okay, sure, sir. Uh, Yes, sir. Last question that what is the role of founder and co-founder? Who can be the founder or co-founder in startups?
Yeah, yeah. So, see, founder is founder, as the name suggests. So, all the 80 to 62 people on the call, barring the faculties, of course, unless they are also into some research, are the founders. So, I am the founder of my firm. I have started it. I have ideated it. I have given birth to it. So whoever gives birth to the idea and who wants to take it big is a founder. There could be now who is a co-founder, meaning one possibility is it is that an idea does not come to one person, but together they are sitting on a cup of coffee and someone says अरे इसको ऐसा करना चाहिए and you say no no इसको ऐसा करेंगे तो and both of them say yeah but both of them have originated that idea, so they are co-founders. So founder is nothing but someone who has toiled the whole idea to a level where it can be taken to the next level.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. One more question is in chat box that what is patent and what is process to get patent in India? Are we need to get
Right.
international patent? So I think that we have already taken one session, sir, in previous series. Might be
Okay.
Jay Kumar was not joined that session, but he will get idea
Okay.
from that. Again, he has very interesting questions, sir. I also don't have answer for that. I have idea to solve the problems of WTO restrictions of Indian government to provide help to Indian farmers. Example, I will give one cow to farmer in low value and sign a contract that he has to sell this cow and will give him a fertilizer. I read this.
Yeah. So what is the question in this?
Question is that there is no question. I think that he's just trying to give us the idea, but that cannot be a startup or I don't think that this is a business idea. What idea he has given? It
Yeah,
can be
it
a
can be
business.
made as a business idea, but and cow is a very sensitive matter
Yes, sir.
in nowadays.
Yes, sir. So very thank you, sir. You have given excellent technical aspects related coverage that some business or startups required land, but many do not require the land. Even not the means you have said that no investment on water or other facilities. Then bad as well as good side of idea or business should also be taken into consideration. Not always the good idea. Then again, the successful as well as failed startup fellows to consider while pitching your business or ideas. Strength and weakness of opponents analysis helps you to do better in startups or to do better in your business idea. Even you have given attention to the networking for funding and investment is must from the point of view of college, university, pre-incubation or incubation centers. But if it is not, then individually also one can try to get the knowledge about all these aspects related to the funding. Then for legal aspects, you have clearly mentioned that what are the different types of these startups or what are the different type of the firms can be there. Then what can means based on tax or structure, what is the limited liability, how they can affect to the personal property and all these things. Then you also have given idea about the agreements that there are different agreements, there can be internal or external employee. Sir, it happens in pharma more because many of the times students of pharma as well as the researchers faculties from pharma academics are there who work with the external employees of the industries, or there is a tie between the industry and academics. And then there is such a type of agreements are always there, sir. Means being a faculty, being the NISP policy coordinator and ENC policy coordinator, I know that there are the certain terms related to the finance that we have to share, and you have also beautifully explained that, sir. Research is our main focus, sir, in our college. We have filed many patents. Obvious M-Farm or B-Farm projects are rising due to the various academic evolutions since last 5 6 years, and due to that also copyright related intellectual property is also getting generated lot. Most of the means even I can say it is not exaggeration. 90% of our projects are innovative and can be converted into the product. But the problem is that they don't have the or students don't have the idea about the startup or getting it to convert it into the business or be some willpower to be an entrepreneur. Means we are forced to be forced to be employee. That is the major issue with the generation. But now due to the IIC, now due to the government initiatives, all the institutes are trying that they should not focus on only the campus but also on the startup and these entrepreneurship initiatives aspirations of the students. So it was really very well explained and very good sessions are very informative session. Excellent coverage was there. I would like to ask Purva and Atharva to give the vote of thanks. Also, sir, I means it was actually by protocol. I forgot your introduction, and I would like to. No, I was thinking that all students should be there and you should get introduced. So I would like to ask Purva to give the introduction as well as the vote of thanks, and then Atharva will give it.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Uh, Firstly, actually, sir, thank you so much for your such nice guidance to all of us, and we are grateful to you for such for distribution of such a great knowledge. And actually, my part was before your speech, so but now I would like to show some light on your achievements and work. Actually, sir has completed their graduation in commerce, has studied law, also have qualified the exams for Chartered Secretary UK, Company Secretary and Management Accountant. Sir is co-founder of LegaLogic Consulting Pune and has bring over 25 years of practice and industry experience. Also does advising on India's business setup, technology and commercial contracts, venture capital investment, and private equity funding. Takeover joint takeovers and joint venture agreements with MNCs and domestic clients of repute. Sir is also instrumental in negotiating international commercial contracts, dealing with IPR related issues, designing and implementing employee stock option. Also does advising on intricate foreign exchange regulation, legal aspects of HR matter, and conducting legal due diligence, and has experience of working in corporate and in advisory position. Uh, Sir had a great contribution to our industry, and we are very thankful to him. And sir, we are very blessed to have you with us today. And um, I think everyone in the webinar has maybe very grateful to you for your presence to us. And I'm also thankful to Devra ma'am that she made this possible for us to be to interact with you. And really a nice webinar, sir. Thank you so much. I would like to ask Atharva to give the vote of thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Purva. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Atharva Japke from class Family 4th year. I feel honored to deliver the vote of thanks. I feel happy and grateful to be part of this wonderful event. On the behalf of college, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guest, Mr. Shridhar Kulkarni, sir. He's from LegaLogic Consulting Pune. We are all inspired by the word of our chief guest. My sincere thanks to our teachers and non-teaching staff of various departments who handled the event, and wide round of applause for thank all the participants who made this event memorable. Finally, I would like to thank our principal sir and Devre ma'am as well as Bhaviskar sir for arranging this wonderful and fantastic event. Made this knowledgeable event enlighten in our future lives. Thank you all of us for our active participant.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. We will end this meeting. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.